March 14, 2024, News Report 1. According to Liberty Times, on March 14 at 6 a.m., a fishing boat from Fujian illegally entered the waters near Kinmen, Taiwan, for fishing. During this time, the fishing boat ran aground and sank in a restricted area 1.1 nautical miles southwest of Dongding Island, Kinmen, resulting in the death of 2 Chinese fishermen, while 2 others remain missing. Reportedly, the Fujian fishing boat, carrying 6 fishermen, sank with only the mast visible above the water, causing all fishermen to fall into the water. Upon receiving the report, the Taiwan Coast Guard dispatched 4 patrol boats, while China sent 6 rescue vessels to conduct search and rescue operations. 2 fishermen were rescued by the Chinese rescue vessels, and the bodies of the other 2 fishermen were found near Dongding Island. The Taiwan Coast Guard also deployed divers to search inside the sunken ship. Zhou Meiwu, director of the Coast Guard Administration, stated that after the sinking of the Fujian fishing boat, the Chinese side notified the Taipei Mission Control Center according to international rescue conventions, which then reported to the Coast Guard Administration. The nearest Coast Guard vessel was approximately 15 nautical miles away from the fishing boat. The initial assessment determined that the Fujian fishing boat ran aground and sank, but further investigation is needed to ascertain the specifics. The report pointed out that this incident occurred 1 month after a speedboat evasion and capsizing event in the waters near Kinmen, which was a sensitive incident. On February 14 of this year, a Chinese speedboat high-speed evaded inspection in the waters near Kinmen and capsized, resulting in the deaths of 2 fishermen. China believes that Taiwan lacks sincerity, unilaterally withdrew from post-incident negotiations, and increased patrols in the waters near Kinmen, exerting pressure on Taiwan. The report also mentioned that Chinese military aircraft and warships have been active in the vicinity of the Taiwan Strait recently, including fighter jets crossing the median line of the Taiwan Strait into the southwestern and eastern airspace of Taiwan. News Report 2. Voice of America reports that the U.S. Department of Defense signed a contract with General Atomics Aeronautical Systems on March 12 to produce 4 MQ-9B Sky Guardian unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, for Taiwan. This contract is part of the U.S. State Department's approval for arms sales to Taiwan in 2020 but was officially signed only in 2024. The total value of the contract is $250 million, and General Atomics Aeronautical Systems will manufacture the UAVs in San Diego County, California, with completion expected by August 2027. In addition to the UAVs, U.S. arms sales to Taiwan also include the construction of 2 new ground control stations and supporting equipment. The MQ-9B Sky Guardian UAV is an improved version of the MQ-9 Reaper, capable of flying at high altitudes via satellite for up to 40 hours in all weather conditions and transmitting real-time imagery to the ground. The U.S. State Department stated that the sale of UAVs to Taiwan will enhance Taiwan's land and air counterattack capabilities to address current and future threats. The signing of this arms sale contract underwent nearly 4 years of decision-making and negotiations, plus an additional 7-year production and delivery cycle, demonstrating the United States' long-term foresight and planning in military deployments. News Report 3. Bloomberg reports that the China Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission, CBIRC, began investigating the holdings of U.S. dollar bonds by Chinese banks and insurance companies' branches in Hong Kong this week. The regulatory agency requested these institutions to provide data on U.S. dollar bonds with maturities of less than 1 year but did not require any immediate actions. The branches of Chinese banks and insurance companies in Hong Kong are the main buyers of bonds. At the beginning of last year, the National Development and Reform Commission issued regulations on the approval and registration management of medium and long-term foreign debts by enterprises, stipulating that bonds with maturities of 1 year or more require approval from the NDRC. Localities began to take advantage of this opportunity to issue 364-day offshore U.S. dollar bonds. According to statistics, a total of 25 underwriting bonds with a maturity of 364 days were issued last year, with a total issuance size of $16.1 billion, the majority of which were issued in the fourth quarter. The financing cost of these short-term bonds reached as high as 10%, indicating that enterprises are eager to raise funds but face significant pressure. News Report 4. According to the UK's Daily Mail, Associated Press journalists captured an unusual expression on President Xi Jinping's face while drinking tea at the closing ceremony of the National People's Congress on March 11. At that time, there were 2 teacups on his seat, with one cup already lifted and drank from by him earlier, after which he closed his eyes with a pained expression on his face. Foreign journalists were surprised by this and expressed uncertainty about what Xi Jinping was drinking and the exact reason for this strange expression. In fact, this expression has appeared at previous meetings attended by Xi Jinping. He closes his eyes to correct his vision, which is a common way to exercise his eyes. Behind the members of the Politburo Standing Committee is a medical team monitoring their health conditions, and Xi Jinping sees a doctor every day. One possibility is that one of the 2 teacups in front of Xi Jinping may contain traditional Chinese medicine because he firmly believes in traditional Chinese medicine, which is consistent with his daily habits. The report pointed out that Xi Jinping's physical condition is closely monitored, with 6 doctors on duty rotation every day. News Report 5. According to Xinhua News Agency, on March 14, the State Council of China announced that Ambassador Chen Xiaodong, China's ambassador to South Africa, will be appointed as Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs. Chen Xiaodong, 58, previously served as China's ambassador to Iraq and the United Kingdom, as well as Director General of the Department of North Africa and ambassador to Singapore. Chen Xiaodong has been serving as China's ambassador to South Africa since August 2020, resigned on March 5 this year, and returned to China on March 11. This appointment has its peculiarities because the position of ambassador to South Africa is usually considered an outward post in China's political landscape, and the African region is generally seen as less important. The return of personnel from here may indicate that Chen Xiaodong will assume a more important role within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This personnel change may be related to the resignation of former Foreign Minister Qin Gang. After Wang Yi took over as Foreign Minister, it was initially planned for Liu Jianchao, Minister of the International Liaison Department, to take over, but this did not materialize. This series of power struggles within the Politburo Standing Committee indicates intense internal power struggles within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So far, the important position of Foreign Minister has not been finalized, reflecting the intensity of power struggles within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. News Report 6. According to France Inter, data from the Neutron Institute shows that as of last year, France had a total of 99,000 homes with suspended mortgages, with a total value of €150 billion. The data shows that last year, the total number of foreclosed homes nationwide reached 800,000, an increase of 36% year-on-year, reaching a historic high. Although the reported data shows that the total volume of foreclosed transactions reached 150,000, an increase of 15.6% year-on-year, and the transaction amount was €300 billion, which was basically flat compared to last year, the actual situation may be more severe. Currently, residential and commercial properties account for the majority of foreclosed homes, comprising 77% of the total number of foreclosed homes. Chongqing and Chengdu have the highest number of foreclosures, indicating that 66% of the foreclosed homes were auctioned due to suspended mortgages. Typically, suspended mortgages occur due to unemployment or business failure. In recent years, the core reason for the increasing number of foreclosed homes is the economic downturn, which has led to a continuous rise in foreclosed homes due to economic issues. News Report 7. The Hangzhou Housing Security and Real Estate Management Bureau issued a notice on March 14 announcing the cancellation of the second-hand housing purchase restriction policy in the real estate regulation measures, allowing the second-hand housing market to be fully open without restrictions. The notice stated that the qualification of buyers of second-hand homes within the jurisdiction of Hangzhou will no longer be reviewed, and the exemption period for personal sale of housing from value-added tax will be uniformly adjusted to 2 years. Previously, non-local residents in Hangzhou had to pay 1 year of Social Security before purchasing a property. In addition, the exemption period for value-added tax on the transfer of non-family-only residential properties was originally 5 years but has now been adjusted to 2 years, with only the sole residential property eligible for a 2-year exemption. This move to cancel the restriction on the purchase of second-hand homes reflects the significant pressure on Hangzhou's second-hand housing market. According to data from the Hangzhou Shell Research Institute, as of the end of February this year, the number of second-hand homes listed in Hangzhou reached 150,000, an increase of 3,815 units compared to the previous month. In February, a total of 2,549 second-hand homes were sold in Hangzhou, a 65% decrease year-on-year, indicating significant pressure on the second-hand housing market. Among them, the transaction volume of second-hand homes in the central 8 districts of Hangzhou in February was 2,190 units, a 67% decrease year-on-year. News Report 8. According to Guangming Daily, international religious experts and organizations issued a joint statement on March 13, criticizing Article 23 of the Basic Law of Hong Kong, which they say directly threatens religious freedom, especially the traditional confidentiality of the Catholic confession. The statement pointed out that the core principle of confession is absolute confidentiality. Even though a priest may encourage a confessor who has committed serious crimes to surrender, the priest absolutely cannot disclose this to the outside world, nor will he bear criminal responsibility for listening to the confession. This principle is explicitly stated in the guidelines of the Catholic Diocese of Hong Kong. However, the Secretary for Justice of Hong Kong stated last week that under Article 23 of the Basic Law, anyone who knows that another person has committed treason but does not report it will be regarded as concealing treason and may be sentenced to up to 14 years in prison. The statement from religious groups believes that Article 23 of the Basic Law requires clergy to violate their own will and conscience, fundamentally infringing on the privacy of confessors. The statement called on the international community, including religious leaders such as Pope Francis and the Archbishop of Canterbury, to urgently issue statements to address the situation in Hong Kong. According to reports, the Hong Kong Legislative Council has completed a clause-by-clause review of the legislation on Article 23 of the Basic Law and is expected to complete the legislative process before the end of March, with it taking effect from April 15, National Security Education Day for the entire nation. This means that confessions in the Catholic Church will expose priests to criminal risks. News Report 9. According to Nikkei Asia, Japanese tire manufacturer Bridgestone announced the closure of its factory in Shenyang on February 29. Bridgestone closed its factory in Huizhou, Guangdong, in 2021 and transferred its equipment to the Shenyang factory. Currently, Bridgestone still operates 3 factories in Tianjin, Wuxi, and Guangzhou. With the closure of the Shenyang factory, 2 factories have been closed in total, leaving 3 factories remaining. However, Bridgestone stated that it will no longer produce tires for commercial vehicles in China in the future, focusing on producing high-performance tires for passenger cars. Last year, several well-known companies worldwide withdrew from China, including Canon's camera factory, Samsung's TV factory, Sony's camera production line, Toshiba's laptop production line, and Nikon's camera factory. These companies transferred their supply chains to Thailand, the Philippines, or back to their home countries. Whether Bridgestone was eliminated by the market or eliminated China's supply chain, the workers were affected. Workers lost their jobs, and joint ventures in China were considered as real opportunities. News Report 10. According to a notice issued by the General Office of the State Council, China will dispatch inspection teams to relevant provinces for on-site inspections of the business environment before April. The inspection teams will conduct on-site inspections of the business environment, but the specific provinces to be visited have not been disclosed. The Chinese government website listed 5 aspects and clues, requiring all regions to report on these 5 aspects. After the report, the State Council Inspection Office will verify the reports from various regions and then send personnel to investigate. The purpose of this measure is to increase the transparency of government supervision, but some details have not been made public. News Report 11. According to Radio France Internationale, International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Grossi visited the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station on March 13 to inspect the nuclear wastewater treatment and discharge equipment. Grossi confirmed the process of diluting and directly discharging nuclear wastewater on-site and the sampling facilities, stating that Japan is safely discharging nuclear wastewater into the ocean as planned. However, Grossi also pointed out that nuclear wastewater treatment still faces long-term challenges, and the International Atomic Energy Agency will monitor this process for the long term. On the other hand, a reporter from Kyodo News Agency asked at the Chinese Foreign Ministry press conference on March 12 that according to official Chinese data, the radioactive substance content emitted by Chinese nuclear power plants in 2022 exceeds the upper limit of radioactive substances in Fukushima nuclear wastewater by 9 times. The Japanese public expressed confusion and dissatisfaction. In response, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said that there is a fundamental difference between nuclear wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear accident and wastewater from normal operation of nuclear power plants and cannot be compared. He emphasized that the content of radioactive substances is the only criterion for judging the safety of nuclear wastewater. Exceeding the safety standard is unacceptable, and the content below the safety standard is normal. Wang Wenbin also urged relevant media to stop unprofessional and irresponsible reporting.